Evening, Maui. How you doing? Long time no speak. I hope you're well. Claude, OCD. Sorry I'm late this evening, or this morning now. It's half past midnight here in the UK. Excuse me. But I got carried away making a pipe. Haven't finished it yet. I'll show you pictures of where I'm up to in a minute. I had an awesome bowl of Dunhill Flake before. I think I'm going to have another one. This is a more recent tin, 2017. I'm almost at the end of a jar of 2015 Dunhill Flake, and I've really been savouring that. So there's literally maybe 1 or 2 smokes left of that one. So I'm kind of saving it. So I thought I'd better try some of the 2017 stuff. I've got some unopened tins, which are probably some of the last tins that they made, the current iteration anyway, before the takeover or not takeover or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to leave those to carry on stewing for a bit. So for now, I'm going to be enjoying this 2017 version. And I must say, I really did enjoy the bowl I had before in my Bentley pipe. Thanks, Maui. Good evening, Jeffrey. North Country Fisher, thank you for joining. So I've got a Yabo to do. I received the package from the OCD Piper. So we're going to do that in a minute. Well, the Robert McConnell versions of Dunhills have been out for a while in Europe. Probably about 6 months already, even more. I've just never really... hi Tim. I've just never really been tempted. I managed to buy up a few tins of the actual Dunhill tins. And as I say, I'm not really acquiring huge amounts of tobacco these days. In the US, means cheaper, that's for sure. If there was a tobacco that I really wanted to stock up on, I would certainly try and get it in the US, no question. I mean, there is a tobacco which I do need, no such word as need, but I would like to stock up on, and that's All It Golden Sliced. Virtually at the end of mine. And first of all, I can't even buy it here in the UK anymore. They used to sell it here in the UK, but I've stopped. Can't buy it in the Danish pipe shop anymore. I can get it in Europe, in Germany and places like that. I actually have to compare the prices because if I buy it from Germany, there's less likelihood of me having any problems. And from America, if I get a sizable amount, then there's a better chance that I'll get stopped. So, I don't know, I'll have to see. I'll have to make some inquiries, but as I say, I'm not in any kind of mad rush to buy tobacco at the moment. Excuse me. It's the one thing with being in the workshop is that you got a nose full of sawdust, even with a mask. Hey Art, how you doing? I did catch your video earlier about the police and the lack of arms and defence mechanisms, if you like. 500 grams hydro. Yeah, we could talk about that, John. No problem. What tobacco are you looking for? Anyway, John, I assume you've got my email address. Just get in touch and we'll work something out. I owe you anyway, so we'll work something out definitely. Have you got my email address, John? Well, there it is in case you haven't. I think we've emailed to each other before, I don't recall. Hey, Myron is in the house. How you doing? Eric, thank you very much for your video. Awesome. Good fun. Excellent fun. And great find with that Caminetto. Very, very good find. $10. Woo! I remember... hi, Jeffrey. I remember when Jeremy Larson used to post. He hasn't posted in ages, but when he used to post, I'm not even sure if he's got an account anymore on YouTube. He does post on IG all the time. But I remember he got a bunch of Dunhills for about $20 each. At the time, I was like incredulous at the absolute find. And yes, I agree with you. $10 for that is amazing. You just don't get those opportunities here in the UK. And if you do, they're ultra rare. In the US, you've just got such a huge inventory of estate pipes out there. You know, Dunhill pipes in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s were huge in the States. All the Italian pipes. It was just the collectible sort of aspect of pipes in the US around the 70s and 80s was just unbelievable. And it's slowed down big time now. The sort of the passion that you displayed in your video, Eric, the other day, that kind of thing, it's there, but it's not as the commitment is not the same as it was. I mean, when you read some of the older magazines and you see the way people talk about their pipes, and they'll describe this unbelievable sort of pipe with such a excuse me, with such a passion in their voice and such flowery language, such passionate language, and then you see a picture of it and you think, okay, it's a lovely pipe, but you know, but the commitment, the level of commitment, I think was a lot stronger than it is now. And there are lots of bargains to be had. You can still get really good bargains on eBay. They're not bargains like $10 for a Caminetto bargain, but you can still get really good European pipes, Italian pipes, Danish pipes, for, you know, 50, 60, $70. You know, from Germany and from various European countries. There's still plenty to be had. That's a very good question, Eric. I'm too busy trying to force a giraffe into a... What was it? A guinea pig cage, was it? Managed to get the whole of the giraffe and just got caught on a little bumps on his head. Otherwise, we got it in. Hamsters, right? Alright. I think it's time to load up a fresh bowl of the Dunhill Flake. I was smoking it before in this Bentley. And, oh, you certainly got the icons, the emojis, Eric. I've got this pipe staring at me. I'm thinking, should I just spark it up myself and enjoy it? Not enough cabinet space, exactly. I assume you guys have seen the video on this pipe. I made this one on either Wednesday or Thursday, I don't remember. Early. I think we're going to load up the Northern Briars Canadian. I've actually done a bit of cross smoking with this one. I smoked What did I smoke in it at first? I don't remember. Maybe it was OGS, I don't recall. And I smoked some Northwoods in it the other day. And I thought maybe I'll make this a Latakia pipe. But I then smoked a Virginia again afterwards, and it tasted fine. I think Latakia blends, unless you smoke them for a long time, they take a while to ghost. And if you interchange between tobaccos with some Latakias, seems to be not too bad. My leather tobacco tray is otherwise occupied at the moment, so I'll make do with the lid. Northern Briars freehand. I don't have a Northern Briars freehand. Which Northern Briars freehand are you talking about? You didn't see me smoke a Northern Briars freehand today. Hey Daniel. The only pipe I've had so far today is this Bentley. I haven't smoked anything else so far. Oh, of course. I got you now. A bit slow on the uptake. But it was actually a Mike Billington pipe, wasn't it? It wasn't Northern Briars. There was a Blakemore, if I remember correctly, seeing as I was involved in that purchase. Hey Tree, how you doing? Join the party. The Stanwell is awesome. I'm smoking the other pipe that I got on the same day, which is the Northern Briars Canadian. And the other one is actually in the car. I was smoking it on Friday and it's still in the car. That's a really nice pipe. I love the triangle sort of shank end on it with a silver cap. But it's actually a little bit bowl heavy. Sorry, it's a little bit bowl heavy. So it's probably going to stay home most of the time. It doesn't quite lend itself to smoking in the car. This Canadian, on the other hand, even though it's quite a sizable pipe, I did ask him to make this one bigger. I've been leaning towards more slightly bigger pipes, but it's very clenchable. And his pipes smoke well straight away from the off, most of them. Alright, so I think we've got enough people watching. We can do the Yabo from Jeff, OCD Piper. Cheers. Well, I've got a Calabash pipe. I've got a beautiful Calabash pipe made by Phil Rivara. I smoke it every so often, maybe once or twice a year. It hasn't got a filter, and I'll usually put a pipe cleaner coiled up in the sort of void of the Calabash. Hi Joe. think at one point I even put it up for sale. I don't remember if I've still got it or not. That's the way my brain is. Yes, I do have it. Here's the beautiful Phil Rivera. Just look at that grain, Myron. So usually what I do is I'll coil up a pipe cleaner, put it in there, and that catches up the moisture really well. But it's still, I still get a little bit of tongue bite with it, but it's manageable. I can get through a bowl of Northwoods, but I think I only ever smoked Penzance in this pipe. Actually, Eric, I've got a bone to pick with you. Never mind a toothpick, but I've got a bone to pick with you. What's that I hear you say? No mention of my Bentley. Really, really disappointed. No mention of my Rolex. I'll have to check again and see on my video. See if it's on there. Alright, so let's get this Yabo over the road. This Yabo. Package from the OCD Piper. All the way from Canadian land. Don't you mean Jeeves? Anyway, Eric, I think you did a great job in the video. Like I said in my comment, the first 30 seconds you had me. After that, there was a little bit of American accents creeping in here and there, but the first 30 seconds was absolutely spot on. You know, it's difficult to see yourself because you just, you know, when somebody mimics you, you obviously don't sort of think that it really sounds like you, but when you get the idiosyncrasies and you get the little accents and the little sayings right, it just works, and you did a great job. Hey Josh. Hector. How are we all doing? Hecty indeed. Hectic Hecty. Old Lang Syne. How you doing? I'm doing well, Hector. Thank you very much. Spent a couple of hours in the garage this evening. Started on a pipe. Let me show you some of the pictures first before we get to the Yabo. So this is how I started off. I had a piece of briar with a really nice plateau, and I was unsure, should I or shouldn't I take the plateau off. And I figured, you know what, I'm going to take the plateau off and hopefully I'm going to get some great grain. And that should really be very, very cool grain when it's finished. So that was the starting point. That was the next stage. And I kind of worked on getting the angle there, which I haven't in the past. I'd done that through sanding, and it really worked very well. And And there's the stummel. Not finished, but there's still a bit of plateau there. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it or not. It might look nice to have a little bit of plateau on it, but at the same time, if I really get this contrast staining working out on this, it really could look pretty awesome. So that's one of the sides, and that's the other side. Really, really good grain. There's a bit of tape at the top to protect the rim. It's just a shame that with Briar, because it's natural, they all seem to have just the odd little fleck here and there, which I know a lot of people are not too bothered about. And they say, yeah, it's natural, it just gives it character. But in reality, I think it holds people back from buying them. I almost was going to rusticate the top, the actual top of the bowl, and just keep the stummel smooth, because that contrast also can look really awesome if you've got a really deep dark black rusticated pipe, and then you've got a lovely golden contrast grain on the stummel. That can also look pretty stunning. No, the blondes are right here. She's here waiting for you, Josh. It's the same Briar sauce, Josh, so it should smoke as well as the one you've got. Yeah, sure, no problem, Josh. Say $1,000 for a 7-day set. Does that sound okay to you? Well, we'll call it $850 because you've already got one. Oh, thanks, Joe. It's really is interesting how, the different tastes people have, and sometimes maybe I'm just too much of a critic of my own work, but sometimes I'll make a pipe and I'll think, yeah, it's okay. Maybe somebody will like it, maybe not. And to me, it wasn't maybe my best pipe that I thought that I'd made, and I'll get some amazing comments. And I don't know if people are just being kind, but sometimes they seem to be genuinely really positive comments. And pipes which I'm sort of really, really happy with, I get mediocre comments. It's really interesting to see different tastes and different opinions, and what people consider to be a good pipe. That's an acrylic stem. Lucite, same thing, yeah. The most fun pipe that I made. Fun to make, or fun that the outcome, that it looks the most fun? The answer to actually both questions is none. Making a pipe is a complete yin and yang kind of situation. The lathe part of making a pipe I do enjoy, I have to say, because to some extent it's thanks OCD. Cheers, Hector. I'm the same. I remember I once had an Israeli pipe maker. He sent me a bunch of pictures of pipes that he made, and he asked me for my opinion. And I said, "Are you sure you want my opinion?" He said, "Yes." So I gave him an honest opinion, and I think he was rather unhappy with what I told him. It was a nice enough pipe, but the level of finishing I thought was, to my view, just wasn't very good. And I put it in the nicest possible way that I could, but I don't think he was very happy with what I said. What was I saying? Yeah, so we're talking about making pipes. Yeah, exactly, Mont Claude. So making a pipe, I do enjoy working on the lathe. I absolutely love working on the lathe, even though that can be frustrating at times. But I enjoy to some extent the predictability of it, and I really get a kick when my bowl drilling hits the draft hole. I really get a big kick out of that because it's just an exciting moment. You know, you have that when you're lining up and you're drilling the chamber, and you're kind of going gingerly as you get towards the mark that you've marked on the drill bit, and you don't want to overshoot it, you don't want to undershoot it. You can always undershoot it because you can always go further, but if you overshoot it, it's not ideal. And you know, there's plenty of pipes, including this Bentley, where the hole is higher than the base of the bowl, which is not the end of the world as long as you're getting an air draft. But you know, obviously, you want it to be right at the nadir of the bowl. And I have to say that 99% of the time they've come out really well, and that's probably for me the best part. I just love it when that happens. It's just no, Hector, you've reformed me. Get it? Reformed me. So have a look at this one. I don't know if you can actually see it there, but it's when it hits spot on like that, it just in terms of pricing, Josh, basically what I've been charging for all of the smooth pipes that I've made, I've charged £150 for. But Josh, if you want to send me an offer, I'll work something out with you. Well, you can have an absolutely perfect spot on pipe, and that can gurgle as well if you're smoking your tobacco really wet. But usually, if the drill, say, is at an angle which doesn't allow a smooth transition of the smoke, and somehow or other you end up having a little bit of moisture gathering at the base of somewhere around the bottom of the draft hole. So to give an example, hey Doug. Thank you very much, Doug. Yeah, that's for me. It is a big thrill when I make that drill. That's for me, as I say, that's probably the funnest part of it for me. But essentially, in terms of the gurgle, sometimes you'll have. See, the reason why you want to get the draft hole really at the bottom of the bowl, you want to have a smooth line with no kinks and no peaks and troughs. You want to have a smooth line, so almost as if it's drilled in one shot. That's really what you really want to have. When you have a drill which somehow, let's say, which can happen sometimes, especially if it's drilled freehand, you can have somehow or other, I'm not quite sure how, but you can have the hole at the bottom of the bowl is a little bit larger than the draft hole, and say the draft hole is a little bit lower, and you end up having, whatever the reason is, but you end up having a little bit of a trough somewhere, a moisture trap essentially. And if the drill, let's say, was done freehand and was done in 2 or 3 shots, see for instance, if I was to do a freehand drill, I wouldn't have the confidence to go straight through in one go. So I'd go in and then maybe go in again, check the line and go in again. That's why I do my drills always on the lathe. And my drills are really very, very smooth. No reason not to be if you're doing it on the lathe. But if you do it freehand, you can end up with having little sort of divots along the way, and moisture sits there. And all that the gurgle is, as uncomfortable as it feels when you're smoking it, it's not a problem as such. But essentially, you've got moisture sitting in a little trap somewhere, and as you draw, the air that comes past agitates it, and it causes it to bubble, and that's what it is. So really what you need to do is make sure that the draft hole is smooth. With bent pipes it's often a big problem because and with the bent pipe this whole area here is pretty complicated, and I'm certainly learning that with the pipes that I'm making now. But if you plan it out well and you get your angles right over here, then you shouldn't really have a problem. But because it's bent, so therefore gravity plays a part, and any moisture that collects as you smoke it, it just trickles back down to the bottom. And when you draw again, it agitates that little pool of moisture there. And any pipe, if the chamber is lower than the drill, so you've naturally got a little reservoir because it's lower than the drill. So that little reservoir is going to have moisture in it, and that's why really you want to try and get the drill as near as possible to the nadir of the bowl. Like an unintended Peterson system, exactly. I was going to use the Peterson system as an example actually, but I wasn't sure if everybody would know is familiar with it. Thanks, Art. I've got to be honest. The pipes of mine, I've said this a few times, but I really feel bad that I'm just kind of blowing my own trumpet. But mechanically, they all smoke great. This one is really, I smoke this a lot. It smokes beautifully. Tonight I'm smoking my Northern Briars Canadian, the most recent one, and I'm smoking some Dunhill Flake from 2017. It is tasty. I picked up Dunhill Flake a couple of days ago, really enjoyed it, and I've been smoking it a fair bit since. When I first started, I drilled 3mm for the draft hole, and then I moved up to 4, and I've been doing 4mm ever since, and it really gives a lovely draw. One of the reasons why I did that, well, there's two reasons. Hi, Snake. Well, hopefully it won't be too long before you see the Dunhills. The reason why I've done it is because so far all of the pipes that I make are 9mm pipes. So when you have a filter in, it does restrict the draft to some extent. So having a 4mm instead of 3mm gives you back some of that airway, if you like, increases the airflow. And I find also with the 3mm that I had made originally, it was too easy for tobacco to block up the airway at the bottom of the bowl. 4mm just gives you that little bit of wiggle room. I would have thought that the Dunhills should be the same. I would assume that there won't be any changes. A filter definitely helps with moisture. That's the reason why I use them. The only reason why I have a filter in a pipe is to stop me getting tongue bite. I tried, really, really hard to learn to smoke a pipe and not get tongue bite, but I just couldn't do it. I tried every which way. And in the end, when I tried 9mm pipes, I could immediately smoke any blend that I wanted without any trouble. I would never have been able to smoke Dunhill Flake, a Virginia Flake, without getting tongue bite literally within 2 minutes. Hey Newton, how you doing? So I've never been a fan of corn cobs myself. Some people absolutely love them and smoke them all day long. John Keller has made a living out of it. Not to mention Missouri Meerschaum, but I can't really comment. I just don't smoke them enough to say. Daniel, filters. It's a matter of literally suck it and see. You know, everybody has a different experience. Everybody has a different tolerance level in their mouths, different pH levels, everything. You know, there's so many equations which need to, so many things need to line up, which create your individual experience with smoking. Oh, art. Ridiculously generous. Yeah, Snake, I would imagine so because it's going to be the same company that makes it. So I would imagine it would be business as usual. It would still be the Scandinavian Tobacco Group who's been making it up to now for Dunhill. Since the last change of hands, whenever that was, it's been the Scandinavian, it's been STG for a while. I just think they missed an opportunity um, by doing it under Peterson. But maybe that's just me, you know, because I've never been a huge fan of Peterson stuff. But I can't say I've tried all their blends, but I really would have thought. I've said this in my videos. I thought it would have been really cool if they would have given it a name which kind of alluded to its history, to the legacy of Dunhill Tobacco. Even it could well be that part of their licensing or part of their deal was that they couldn't do that because the main reason why Dunhill sold it in the first place or stopped production because they wanted to disassociate their branding from tobacco. But I thought it would have been awesome if they would have just made a new brand called, I don't know, St James's or Jermyn Street or something, you know, something which kind of connected it to its original birth, if you like, in London. I thought it was a missed opportunity. I agree, Hector. I agree. There are many, many more unfiltered pipes compared to filtered, Daniel, because the vast majority of the world smokes without a filter. The real, the only really significant filter market is Germany, and other places in Europe, but the most significant market is Germany, and most of the filtered pipes that make their way to the US probably have gone through Germany. So any of the Italian, like the Caminetto that Eric picked up, or Ascorti, all of those, if you find the 9mm one in the US, it probably would have originated in Germany. And the Fern Down by Les Wood, Fern Down or Elwood, all of those 9mm ones were made for the German market. I spoke to Les Wood not long ago. I still am supposed to be going to visit him. He agreed for me to come up and see him, but he was doing some building work. But I completely forgot about it. I should really get back in touch with him because you know these people aren't getting any younger, and it would just be such a shame not to get to glean some advice and information from him. If you guys recall, when I went to Mike Billington, I kind of said that to him without trying to be offensive. I didn't really push, but I said to him, you know, there's no succession planning for the English carvers. You've got Mike, and you've got Ian Walker. I mean, these are not young people. Ian Walker's not that old, but he's not that young either. And I just don't see more English carvers coming up the ranks. You know. All right, I think we should do the Yabo. Sorry, Daniel, you asked about the Balsa filters. Balsa filters will help with some of the moisture, but for me, for some people they'll be enough to deal with tongue bite, I guess. But for me, they just weren't enough. I did try my 606 Savinelli, the second pipe I ever bought. That one I smoked with the Balsa filters when I first bought it, not because of tongue bite at that stage. We're going back 4 years. At that stage, I just didn't know much about pipes, and it came with the Balsa filters, so I smoked it with the Balsa filters, just assuming that that's what it was designed to do. But I stopped after a while because I didn't see any real benefit, and they're expensive. So, good 2 years down the road before I discovered 9mm pipes. Well, the whole FDA thing is on hold at the moment, isn't it? I mean, Cornell and Deal are bringing in, blends all the time. The same with the cigars. There's new cigars coming out all the time. I think people are just ignoring it and just making hay at the moment whilst it's all on hold. I think it's to do with pipes and cigars, because they hold the license to import. Somebody told me about. I think it was it Maui? I think it was Maui. If you're still there, Maui. Well, somebody, I don't know who it was. Somebody said something about the licensing or the importing agreements with pipes and cigars, and they've still got the license, which hasn't expired yet, to bring in the Dunhill blends. Something along those lines. I'm not sure, but hopefully at some point in the future you'll get them. Josh, if you're watching, this has got, I don't know if you're into big bowls, this has got a really, really big bowl. And the reason for that is that the block was that high, and if I wanted to keep the plateau, I couldn't trim it. So that's why it's such a big pipe. It's interesting that you say that, Hector, because I also found, although I haven't smoked a huge range of C&D tobaccos, I have smoked a fair few, and I do find a lot of them to be really similar. It's a very good point you make. Well, it could well be that it's to do that with that licensing I mentioned before, which it's already a few months from the announcement. So if he says it's a few months' time, then presumably it could well be that the licensing will have expired by then. They must have well over 100 blends by now, surely. A couple of hundred blends maybe. It's interesting that they have enough of a customer base for each of those blends. I don't know how they do it, to be honest. Maybe they just put them out there and see which ones become the most popular. And maybe they do away with the ones that aren't, I don't know. I know that McBaron have done that a few times. Every few years they just cull the blends which don't do well enough to make it worth their while to do them. And then people go back and say, oh, I missed that blend. But like, for instance, the HH line in McBaron's, it was a much bigger line, but because they decided to make HH English in the original term of what English tobaccos are, in other words, pure tobaccos without casings, they had to do away with a few of them. Like Mature Virginia, for instance, which I really liked, it had some kind of topping on it, so it couldn't stay in the HH line. Well, I would say and it's just a guess, but I would say that probably 90 to 95% of house blends are just relabeled bulk blends which they've bought in. I think you're talking about Stockport, possibly. Hector, am I right? I think they've Stockton, maybe. Yeah, Stockton rather, not Stockport. I believe I have a tin of that in my. Yes, it is a roll cake. I've got a tin of that in my cellar somewhere. Well, some B&Ms will do their own blending. So Kramer's, for instance, used to do their own blends. Certainly Boswell's make their own blends. Peretti's make their own blends. I mean, these guys are all famous for it. And there will be some mom and pop shops who will also do some of their own blending. But I think the vast majority, certainly here in the UK, the vast majority of house blends will be either Garth, Hogarth, and that kind of thing. Strauss, yeah, quite right. Yeah, I mean, there's loads of them you could name, but Highlander blend, okay. I haven't seen that one, Hector. Well, when it comes to Germain's, I would say that they certainly seem to have some kind of way of either it's actually just aged for a long time and they've got the patience, but their stuff really does come out looking fairly aged already, with the exception of some of the really bright sort of shag cut Virginias. That Kramer's Danny K blend that I tried the other day was a real surprise to me. It really reminded me of Frogmorton Cellar. I thought it was better than Cellar, but certainly reminded me of it. Yeah, that makes sense, Jeff. I've got an old catalogue here which I picked up at the Israeli sale a while back, and that catalogue, you basically got a whole list of aromatics. There's no name, there's no make, it just tells you what it is, and shops would order it in. It's a wholesale catalogue. Let's see if I can find it. There it is. I think I've showed this before. So you've got all the great pipe companies, Stanwell's. And look at the prices of some of these. $25 for these Stanwell pipes. Stanwell pipes with silver, $45. This catalogue is from 2002. These gorgeous Winslows, although these ones are quite expensive. Nice mirrors. Let me find you those tobaccos. So all of these are all bulks. These are all by Peter Stokeby in 5-pound bags. $54 for 5-pound bags. Yeah, absolutely, Tim. Sad it doesn't work that way, does it? Yep, I'll do. Talking Tommy does a great accent, Yorkshire accent. Well, if you watch me closely enough, you'll know that I've been leaning towards Stanwell's quite a bit recently. They're both great companies, I must be honest. Savinelli's are great, Stanwell's are great, but I'll be honest, the Stanwells that I've got are all quite old and well smoked for the most part, although one of them I got unsmoked, which is, in fact, two of them. I got this one unsmoked, but it was an old estate unsmoked, old stock, and this one as well, from the Danish pipe shop. But the other ones were estates, which were smoked. The one that I just got with a triangle shank was a smoked one. And they just smoke very, very well. I don't have any of the Italian ones, which are the ones they make now, so I can't really compare it. But what I will say is this: the Stanwells, the ones that I've got, have all smoked well with good taste, without any sort of. Sometimes you get a pipe which is just that woody flavour takes a long time to go away, and that's what I do find with Savinelli's. I don't know how big Stanwell is compared to Savinelli. But I would say that Stanwell pipes, to me, the ones that I've got anyway, feel less of a factory pipe and more leaning towards an artisan pipe. Certainly the Danish ones. I can't really comment about the Italian ones. When I see the Italian ones online and in shops, they don't look as good. They do look a little bit more factory based. No, absolutely, Hector. The ones which are the higher range ones, certainly the Savinellis, some of them are stonking pipes. The Autograph range, the one that I've got, the sandblasted one, I actually haven't smoked it recently, but it's fantastic smoker. But with all of that, having said all of that, you could get a $500 artisan pipe and a $50 Bots Chacun, or one of the Lorenzos or something which is really on the lower end, and the Lorenzo will smoke better. It's to some extent, you have to be lucky with the way it's made, and you have to be lucky with the briar itself. Sometimes the briar, the guy who makes the pipe isn't going to know until it's smoked. I was reading an article about briar, that you get some. Well, I don't remember which carver it was saying that sometimes when you're carving a pipe and you smell the briar as you're cutting it, as you're sanding it, and the briar has this rich, sweet smell, and it may be 1 block in 100 that gives you that rich, sweet smell, and apparently they are the best pipes in the world. They smoke fantastic, and they smoke sweet, and they're fantastic to smoke. And the guy was the person who was being interviewed, or I honestly don't remember where I saw the article, but he was saying that he could sort of set aside those pieces of briar for his best customers, or he could just keep it for himself. But the problem with that is that once it starts to get known out there that you can differentiate at the briar level before you make the pipe, then you're going to have this elite kind of market where these briars are going to just become so difficult to obtain. So the guy who was being interviewed said he just simply cuts it like any other pipe and sells it without making an issue about it. I assume that's true. I've got no reason to think otherwise, but I've certainly never experienced it myself. I'd love to see the film, but I've struggled to get it here in the UK. In the beginning, I just couldn't get it. I saw links for it on Netflix, but when I clicked on it, it wasn't available. I don't know if it's been excluded from the UK market or not, but hopefully somebody will send me a hooky copy of it at some point. Yeah, to be honest, the problem with getting things on Apple or any of these kind of places is that you can't download it, so they'll let you watch it for a while and then that's it. So you've paid your 15 quid or whatever it is to rent the movie, but for 15 quid you want to own it, I don't know, maybe you can download them, I'm not sure. It's too sad, Hector. What? Because it's all people who are no longer with us. Is that what it's about? About the dying trade? Is that what it's? Is that the sadness? Cody? I've never heard of Cody. Yeah, I'm searching Father of the Flame. It's just not there. Oh, here we go. I can rent it for $4.99 and buy it for $10.99. Maybe I'll watch it. We'll see. Thanks, Tim. What did you think of it, Tim? I'll do the Yabo soon. I keep getting distracted. To be honest with you, I'll be just looking at, I don't know if it shows it to you in the film, but I'll be looking at the tools and any of them in action whilst they're carving, that kind of thing. Tim, what did you think of the film? Okay. Well, if you send me a link, I'll certainly have a butcher's, as they say. Alright, let's do this Yabo. This Yabo. Alright, so package from OCD, from Jeff. Let's just get this thing open. Alright, so we've got some tobaccos. Ooh, Kramer's Father Dempsey. Nice. Very good idea there, because I've just recently done the Danny Kaye, and a lot of people said that it's very similar. I don't remember which, but they said one was richer than the other. Not sure which. But I've really been wanting to try the Kramer's blends. Heard so much about them. It hasn't got such a sort of smoky aroma. It's there. The aroma is there, but it seems to be a little bit less pungent. And you can definitely detect some kind of sweetener in there. Maybe a little bit of a vanilla type flavour. Look forward to trying that. Excellent choice there, OCD. Hit the nail on the head. We have a tin of Cornell and Diehl small batch Carolina Red Flake. Might have that. No, I think it's the San Sepolcro that I've got. Thanks, Tim. So this one is 2018. What does it say here? Small batch blends, a line of limited run small batch blends as a means to show off blah 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 blah. Okay. Alright, what does it say? A blend of the finest North Carolina grown red Virginia harvested in 2015. Cool, so that means it's already got some age on it. Plucked straight from Carolina soil. These top tier Virginias were all grown, thrashed, blended, pressed, and then lovingly sliced and tinned right here in the heart of old tobacco country. O.R. Sweet, tangy, and spicy Carolina Red Flake is both surprisingly straightforward. That's their way of saying you might find it a little bit straightforward. And pleasantly complex. You'll find it's rich, deep, and earthy, with undertones of dried cranberries, orchard grass, and citrus. Mmm, tasty. Thank you, Jeff. Ooh, and finally, Sun Bear. So this is their most recent one, I think. Yep, 2019. Alright, let's see what this one says. A blend of fine red and bright Virginias balanced by Basma leaf from 2014, cool, and Izmir Orientals from 2013. Sun Bear commends itself with subtle notes of South Carolina garden-grown honey from the personal beehives of Jeremy Reeves, head blender of Cornell and Diehl. The natural honey complements the subtle drizzling of silver tequila and elderflower for a natural, refined tasting tobacco with an underlying swashbuckling boldness. Who writes this stuff? Sun Bear is a unique experience for the connoisseur who appreciates a dance of flavor components dominated by quality Virginias. Take another draw on your spliff. Gordon Bennett, I don't know who writes this stuff, but I think they must be related to Eric. All that passion overflowing. Very, very flowery language there. That concludes the Yabo. Jeff, fantastic. Thank you very, very much. 3 excellent choices. And tobaccos which I would have no chance of getting unless somebody sent it to me. So awesome. Very, very, very grateful. I know you'll be long waiting for some London fog, and there will be some winging its way over to you before long. It does make Golden Slice sound dull. I do like all it Golden Sliced, I must admit. Somebody did ask me the other day about making London Fog, and Pipehead OR from Oregon. He's been making it with Sutliff match stuff, so not even the all it Golden Sliced. He's been getting a match for Golden Sliced and a match for Virginia Woods from Sutliff. Sutliff, I think they're a little bit under sort of appreciated. You know, they make some. They certainly got to give them kudos for trying to help you out and have the blends that you want that you can't get anymore. That's for sure. John, you're too awesome. But we'll work something out. You let me know what kind of stuff you want. No more freebies, John. They're always in stock. Well, a lot of their stuff is bulk anyway, so you can. Yeah, I assume they're making a load of stuff, but they've obviously got a healthy customer base. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to keep doing it. It almost seems like as soon as a blend goes out of circulation, they'll make a replacement. Mm. Well, Art was generous enough. He sent me a whole pound bag of 515 RC1, which is the Virginia Woods replacement. I've still got some of in a jar which somebody else had sent me, so I haven't even cracked into that bag yet. But one day I'll have to, when I run out of Virginia Woods. Guys, I'm going to ask you to hold on for a minute. One of the downsides of turning 50 is that you have to vacate your bladder on a more regular basis. Too much information. BRB. Right, what have you lot been saying in my absence? Talk smack, for sure, go for it. Cowboy American voice? Yeehaw! Yeah, the whole C&D thing to me is really interesting, and I find the whole there's so much incestuous there are so many incestuous relationships between tobacco companies, and how they manage to retain individuality on their blends beats me. But I haven't really smoked enough of the GLPs or C&D blends to be able to really have an opinion on their body of releases, to be honest. Yes, Art. Really, really nice selection of tobacco. And I'm really curious about that Sun Bear, especially that drizzling of silver tequila, and swashbuckling boldness. We like a bit of swashbuckling boldness in our tobacco. Yeah, absolutely, Hector. To some extent, to be honest, I find it a little bit of a, I don't want to use a naughty word, but I find it they're taking the mickey sometimes. Because it just gets a bit much when you have all these different types of blends. I think they'd do a lot better to focus on some core. I'm not saying to contract the selection of tobacco, but the ones which are really similar, just make a good blend, a solid blend, and improve the quality of the tobacco rather than spreading it thin across 10 different blends, as you say. And I almost feel like they it's like they're saying, feeling that we're gullible, that we're just gonna, keep on taking it as if it's something new, something special, and people are gonna rush out to get it, this new blend. But maybe I'm being cynical. Maybe each blend, will attract a particular different type of customer. Who knows? It's been a long, long time since I've smoked Bourbon Sobranie. I think I might have one tin somewhere. I'm not sure. I did have some a while back, and then I sold them. But I don't think I was bowled over by it. So what's it called? This 759? Is it just called that? In what way, John? What do you mean you've wondered what they're thinking? Okay, good to know. Tim, have you had the 759? Besides for that pinch from Tree. Hey, badaddies. Oh, I see what you mean. Well, if you go on to tobaccoreviews.com, you'll see lots of different opinions about the same tobaccos. I don't know. All these tins and blends that you guys are all mentioning. I don't know if they're just rehashing stuff to get a rush on. I honestly don't know. I see what you mean. Yeah, I agree with you. I think they are sitting laughing. I mean, the Dark Fired plug. Yeah, Hector, would be interested in your opinion and see if it's really any different. I've actually been smoking the Orlick Dark Strong recently, which I never thought I would enjoy. The one with the zebra pattern, the dark and bright. I've always shied away from any of the tobaccos which have the word strong in them, but I actually don't find it really strong at all. Hey Blake, or AJ. The presentation of that tobacco is awesome. I just love the way this looks. I don't know. I didn't find it strong really at all, neither in flavour nor in strength. The Peter Heinrichs, they seem to exude quality. Just to look at them, I haven't actually bought any. But I do find a lot of the tobaccos are also similar. A good example is all of the bullseye flake type vapors. So you've got the Navy rolls, Dunhill Navy rolls. You've got the Davidoff medallions. You've got the cask Camoys cask number 7. You've got Peter Stokkebye, a bullseye flake. There's so many which are the same, and Stokkebye. They're all so similar. Escudo, I think, is maybe slightly different. I find that much more peppery, a little bit more, a little bit harsher to me actually, a bit rough around the edges. Stokkebye. You say Stokkebye, I say Stokkebye. St. James's Flake. Are you talking about the Samuel Goeth St. James's Flake? This stuff. Yeah, I've had the Thanksgiving blend from 2017. I've still got a fair bit of that brick left. Wasn't a big fan. Hey, Pipes and Pictures. I've tried, I think, 4 blends from Peretti's, and I wasn't a fan of any of them really. Too much burley. I've been enjoying, the really sort of run-of-the-mill VAs recently, such as Orlik Golden Sliced. Really been enjoying it a lot. I went on that hunt for the vintage flake from Danish Pipe Shop, but and I've been enjoying that as well. But I think I've been enjoying the Orlik more recently, and I'm going to leave the vintage flake to get more vintage. Daniel, you're a right busy bee tonight. You're a Stokkebye. Really stoked. You're a stocked bee. So what is deer tongue? I don't think I've ever tasted it. Somebody said something about deer tongue when I was reading this. Dried vanilla. Let me read this warning to you. This product can expose you to tobacco smoke. No. Which is known to the state of California. It's California, I'll tell you what, the state of California knows a lot of stuff. It's known to the state of California to cause cancer, and nicotine, which is known to the state of California, see I told you it knows a lot, to cause birth defects and other reproductive harm. For more information, go to www.p65warnings.ca.gov. Why is it that all these have known to the state of California? All of these American tins have that on it, and no other state. Sasquatch Piper. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. So what is it about California? California is special. So as Josh says, as long as you stay out of California, hopefully it won't be damaging, will it? It's only in California. I assume it's just California that requires these tobacco products to state it on the tins, whereas the other states don't. Otherwise, you'd have a whole long list of, how many states are there? 50 odd? What are the tobacco regulations like there in California in terms of smoking in the public, in the street? Are you allowed to do that? I'm surprised they don't put a warning on the Super Bowl. Losing the Super Bowl can cause depression. It may expose you to excitement. You're a Liverpool fan. Liverpool! Alright, I've run out of things to say. Any topics anybody wants to discuss? Any questions? Anything at all? The only trace of nuts that it contains is the people that make it, I think. Well, here in the UK, cigarettes have already got plain packaging. Cigars, I'm not sure if we've got that yet. I don't think we have. But in France, the last box that I got from France was some Ramon Allones, and you couldn't actually see the box because of the stickers. I'll show you what I mean. There you go. That's Ramon Alloys Hexagon, which was the end of 2016. I've already torn some of it off, but what is it? 70% of the box is covered, and they have this handsome young man looking rather down in the dumps. Looks like he needs to suck his thumb. Or suck something anyway. A cigar, probably. I might as well show you the cigars while we're here. Don't they look pretty? Doggone it! I've had a couple of boxes of these already. This is my last box and I'm just kind of saving them. They're really tasty cigars, I must say. Talking about I Havanas, this box of especially selected that I got. This is my most recent purchase from I Havanas. I've had them a while now, but it's my last purchase from them, and I've got to say that overall their stuff is really good. These are the specially selected. A little bit of mold creeping in, but nothing too crazy. Just wipe it off. I have to check the moisture levels in my humidor. But if you do have any significant amount of cigars, a word of warning, every so often just take them out and give them a rub. Most things in life, they like to be given a rub every so often. Moi? What are you talking about? Ooh, matron. Hector, it's obviously, it takes one to know one. Wait, Ron, don't push it. I should really look at the lower level. No, not that lower level. Hang on. Alright, I think this video is getting out of hand. There he goes again. Uh-oh. There's a lot of mold in there. It's a good job I took these out, actually. The temperature is usually around the 70 mark, but I used to be much more rigorous about it and much more careful. I'm not so bothered about it these days. It's more the humidity that's the issue. Mold is not a terrible thing when it comes to cigars, as long as you get it early enough. It's not the end of the world. No, this is not plume. This is mold. There is plume on them as well, but some people say that this improves. Whoa! Some people say that it actually improves the flavour. Interesting thing is, I went through all my cigars not long ago, but I didn't open up this bottom level. Yeah, some people say that the mold and plume, all of it together, it all comes from the same kind of thing, and they say that it's well, plume. There's quite a debate about whether it exists in terms of being a favourable thing, and whether it's just another form of mold or whether it's sugar crystals. I don't know. I've not really been able to see a very clear answer to that. For me, most of the time, if it's not blue or green, for sure. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Most of the time, I go by smell, and when the cigar's got a nice, rich, musty, tangy aroma, you know that you should be in for a good smoke. You could put them in the humidor directly, but I like to keep things organised to some extent, and to know what age they've come from, which box they've come from, the age of the box. And my humidor is actually a frigidor, a winador, and so it's not cedar lined. So they sit in cedar boxes, so that does the same thing. Hope I'm not boring you guys while I'm clearing this. Well, that's another healthy debate. Some people believe that if you keep the cigars in their cellophane wrappers, that it actually enhances it, because it still breathes, so you still get the advantage of the moisture levels in the humidor. It also still allows transference of the aromas from your humidor, which usually, if you've got a nice humidor, stock humidor, open the door of your humidor, you get a really lovely tobacco, sort of sweet, rich tobacco aroma, and that does transfer in your humidor from cigar to cigar. So the cellophanes still allow that to come through if you're aging them long term, but they say that it slows down the aging process so that it really ages nicely and at a nice pace. It doesn't get too moist, don't get too dry. And of course, the cellophane, if you take them out of the humidor, they'll survive longer without being humidified if they're in the cellophane. A lot of aficionados, they're keeping their cigars at 65, that kind of thing in terms of the humidity. Yeah, and they may well do Sasquatch, but these ones I think were displaying a little bit more than I was comfortable with, so it's worth a wipe down. I would love to see the basement at Davidoff's. There are videos out there showing pictures of it. They've got a basement full of boxes stacked, not cigar boxes, big brown cardboard boxes full of cigar boxes from floor to ceiling of stuff which is 20, 30, 40 years old. And I reckon the stock in that place is worth it in the millions, literally in the millions. And that's why, if you want to get rare cigars or Cuban cigars which are out of production, that's the place to go. Every so often they'll bring up Edward Sahakian, the owner. They'll bring up a box of something rare, an old regional edition or a limited edition, and you'll pay through the roof for them. You'll pay very high prices, but at least if it's a cigar that you want to get, you'll be able to find it there. An example recently which shocked me, it's a cigar I've got one single of, is the Sobresalientes by Por Laranaga. That was a UK regional edition in I think it was either 15 or 16, and I really enjoyed those. I smoked quite a few of them, but I kept one just so I've got one. left in the humidor, and they're selling them now at some crazy price for a single cigar. Well, Tim, I would say that the reason for that is that the chances are, if you're using 72% Bevidas, then your humidor is probably nearer to the 69 mark now, which is probably better for smoking. 65 would be a little bit dry, 72 is a little bit moist. But the Bevidas are very, very good, but they're not going to be bang on 72, no matter what your hygrometer says. So you're probably nearer the 70, 69 mark, which is probably more ideal. And that's probably why you're enjoying them more. In my humble opinion, of course. I must tell you, New World Cigars, I've been really impressed with the undercrowns. I've got some undercrowns in my Tapador, which I keep my New World cigars in, and they've been in there for a couple of years, and they've really mellowed out, and they're a fantastic cigar. You know, I kind of went off New World cigars, but there are some cracking ones out there. I just opened a box of Serie V Milanos Robustos. Smoked one the other day. Been in my humidor for maybe 2 years, and such a sweet smoke. Really, really fantastic smoke. And I never thought that they age well, and I probably still think they don't age as well as Cuban cigars, but they do age and they do improve without a doubt. Daniel, I was just saying, the underground range from Drew Estates I find are fantastic. All of them, the Shade, the Maduro, the Sungrown, I enjoy them all. I've heard about the Mombay ones, but I've not actually tried them. And the Serie V Milanos I think are excellent as well. I've smoked different sizes, different Vitolas, and they're all very good. I used to really be big on the regular Serie V, but I'm not so much into those now. I much prefer the Milano. I've had Rocky Patels. I don't like them. I haven't yet had a Rocky Patel that I like. I find them far too peppery. I think you Americans must like your pepper, because so many of the American cigars seem to have a very peppery DNA, and it's all about the strength. And I don't know, to me they're just not refined enough, and I just don't like them. The Padron cigars, these are good. Really, really expensive though. Valley Boy Bushcraft, welcome. My favourite Maduro, I would probably say, is the Undercrown Maduro. I haven't had the what's his name ones for a long time. The ones which they're a copy of. Somebody help me out here. The Undercrowns, the Liga Privada. Thank you very much, Jeff. The Liga Privada, I started off actually, the first Undercrowns I smoked were the Liga Privada number 9, which was very nice. But I haven't had access to those for a long time, and the Undercrowns, very happy with them. I should really get some more just to let them age again. Cheers, Tim. Thanks very much for joining. Really enjoyed chatting tonight. This is what I've got left of the non-Cubans, and there's a few Cubans in there as well, but I've given so many of them away, so I haven't got that much of a selection left. So you guys might be familiar with these more than I am. I picked this up at JJ Fox's maybe a couple of months ago. La Aurora Gold. Any of you guys smoke these? So I have no idea. I'll probably be doing an impressions video of that at some point. The Evo, or Ava, whatever it's called. Classic 90th Covers, Volume 4. Evo Evasion. I did try one of these. It was called something else. It was called a Silver or something or other. I really didn't enjoy it at all. This is a Dunhill aged, which Maduro. I've told you about this one before. This one is in a box because it's the first one ever sold at the Dunhill shop in London. When they first brought out this range, Dunhill, this was the first cigar they sold. It means nothing, but it's just I'm sentimental that way. There's a couple of the Maduros which I got from Tree. We did a little trade a while back. So this is a Sungrown. At one stage this was my favourite cigar. I haven't smoked a Sungrown for a while. This is a Melanio Churchill. Had a few of those. I don't know what that is. This may even be one of the first Boswell house blends that I bought. I bought these quite a bit in the beginning. This is a really cool cigar given to me by Izzy when I went to Israel. This is the 70th anniversary of the State of Israel. Brick House Maduro. So I've just kept these just for sentimental reasons. I haven't actually smoked them. They gave me two. I'm not a big fan of the Brick House ones, to be honest. Undercrown. So these are the ones which I've been smoking, and I think this is my last one actually. Been enjoying those. A friend of mine here in the UK gave me this one, Draconian Recluse. It's getting a bit cracked up now, but it's a beast. It's huge. Interesting shape as well, like an oval shape, like a Canadian really. Ah, we've got another Undercrown. These have really surprised me. This is a Nicalibra. I got a box of these in my first ever trade, which was with Ben, Unicorn Piper, or now known as the Old Soul. And I gave loads of them away. I didn't think much of them. We're going back maybe nearly 4 years now, and now they're tasting fantastic, really chocolatey, a very, very economical cigar as well. I think it was $70 for a box of 20 or 25, and I've got a couple of those left. I smoked an awful lot of these. These are La Glura Cabana Serie N. Bought these from Four Noggins. I think I've had a couple of boxes of those. This is a La Glura Cabana Serie R, which I haven't smoked yet because I think it's quite a peppery smoke. This is a Flying Pig Maduro, Undercrown Maduro, which I haven't smoked because I want to do a video of it, and I just haven't got around to it. That's a Leva Serie V, a slightly abused one. There's another one, starting to get some abuse. Herrera Esteli by Drew Estate. I've actually had a couple of these and they're actually quite nice. Sort of run-of-the-mill, quite creamy kind of smoke, if I remember correctly. Don't remember what this is. There's another Sungrown. Now, these were actually really interesting. This is kind of a boutique kind of smoke. I traded this with somebody here in the UK. It's called Trinidad Grand Cafe, and I think I've had 2 or 3 of them, and they were actually pretty good. So I've got one left of these. This is a Davidoff Nicaragua Robusto. This is actually quite a good blend. I'm not a big fan of Davidoff cigars. Daniel, you asked about that before. I find the Davidoff cigars, a lot of them that I've tried, very, very thin in flavour and very sort of prone to turning bitter because the flavour profile is so narrow. I think that's another one of the... oh no, this one's got a closed foot. I'm trying to remember who sent me this. I don't recall. This is a Fuente Opus X. Never really saw the big deal about these, to be honest. Just me personally. Yeah, definitely prevents damage. That's for sure. I mean, the Cuban cigars going back 40 years were all wrapped in cello as well. This one, I don't know anything about this. This is a Debonair Ultra Premium. Ooh. Daybreak, it's called. Maybe that's why I didn't like the Opus X, if it was peppery. And this one, I don't recall. I think this is a Boswell as well. In the old days when I used to put sellotape, do you remember that? That's actually got a lovely draw. Tastes yum. You can get Padrons here in the UK, but they're really expensive. They're more expensive than Cuban cigars. And this one, I think I got this from Mike Blocker, possibly, from Gamecock Piper. Donna Flor Selecao. That's a Cuban. Don't know what that is. This is a Cornelius and Anthony Venganza. What's this one? I don't know. Some of these I need to just bin. Jose El Piedra. Vuelta Arriba. Arriba. And another Churchill. And that's it. Those are my non-Cubans. And I rarely dip into them these days, I must be honest. But it's really the undercrowns that I go for of this lot. Occasionally. Sometimes when I'll take them in the car, I'll take the undercrowns. Keep calm and smoke a cigar, absolutely. Okay. 5 or 6 by 50, 52. Absolutely, that's spot on for me too. 5 by 50 is my although the Undercrown Robusto I think is a 5 or 5.5 by 54, I think it is. So they're a little bit chunkier. I prefer the English Robusto size, 5 by 50. Definitely. I do find that the Undercrowns, they just go on a little bit. If I'm doing a video, then it makes no difference what size it is. You know, it could take 2 hours, it could take half an hour. It makes no difference because I'm sitting down, focusing on the video and that's, you know, all the flavors and trying to make the video interesting. But when I'm smoking them, just sort of when I'm working or if I'm in the car, I don't want it to go on forever. And for me, Robusto is just about the right size. I don't like a really thin, small cigar. I don't mind a thinner, longer one, like a Lonsdale, that kind of thing. But I often find that the draw on those is a bit tight. Yes, Boris, about a year ago, a bit more than a year ago, I was pretty much exclusively smoking cigars because of that problem with tongue bite I was having. And then I discovered the 9mm, which was in December 2017. And before that, I was virtually smoking cigars exclusively. You'll see a ton of cigar videos on my channel around that time. And then discovered the 9mm, and it's really since then I've been smoking pipes pretty much all the time. And you know, plenty of cigars too, but not. There's plenty of days will go by without having a cigar. I kind of went through interesting sort of patterns. There was a time when I started smoking a pipe, I think it was in October 15. And I started smoking cigars, I think I did my first cigar video around January 16. And I started discovering cigars more and more. In the beginning I struggled with nicotine. But I kind of was getting into it more and more. And it got to a point when I was having probably, say, 2 to 3 cigars a week. and the rest of the time was pipes. And then I had issues with tongue bite, went over to cigars, and I had also times when I was not smoking Cubans. I got really fed up with getting blocked or really tight cigars. I couldn't smoke them, not enjoy them, so I went over to non-Cubans, and I was smoking. That's when I got into the La Gloria Cubana Serie N. I smoked a lot of those. I smoked a lot of the 10 packs from Boswell's. Really good cigars, actually. Their house cigars, and great value for money. And there's also a guy on Instagram who ships all over the world, and they're not the cheapest, but they're cheap, and never got stopped with customs or anything like that. So I've bought a fair few cigars from him. Haven't bought from him for a long time though. I think it's called Bulldog Cigars, his Instagram page. So I was smoking New World cigars for quite a long time, favouring them over Cubans. And then the Cuban cigars seemed to improve, and the construction was a lot better. And you'll still get tight cigars now, but if you avoid certain years, you got a fair chance. And even now, if I buy a box of Cuban cigars, there'll still be a fair few in there which are too tight. But they're a lot better than they used to be. So I'm now smoking much more Cubans than non-Cubans, but less cigars generally. My first ever cigar, I can't recall my first ever cigar. Probably would have been in my 20s, early 20s possibly, maybe late teens. But the first foray into any kind of cigar smoking with any kind of sort of, I won't say regularity, but certainly I had stopped smoking cigarettes at about 22. Around when I got married, I stopped smoking cigarettes, and occasionally I'd buy a little box of Villiger cigars, the yellow box with, I think there's either 4 or 5 square box pressed machine made cigars, cut at both ends, wrapped in a little piece of paper, and I really enjoyed those. So occasionally, around festival time, special occasions, I'd buy a box of those and smoke those. Knew nothing about humidity. They would stay in that box on the shelf on my bookcase, and even for months at a time. I didn't know there was such a thing as keeping them humidified. And then one time I got a Romeo and Juliet, don't remember which one it was, given to me at a wedding, and really enjoyed that. And again, I knew nothing about cutting the end, and all I knew was that you had to have a hole. So I used to use a match just to pierce the end of it, so you'd have literally the size of a match hole. But I really enjoyed that cigar. And then I probably didn't smoke anything till that fateful day when I bought a pipe at Cigar and Snuff, which was, as I say, around October time, 2015. And that's where it all started. I bought that Butch Chaquin pipe, which I rusticated recently, and then I bought the Savinelli 606, and that Savinelli 606 is really what got me into it properly. I was smoking cherry blends in those days, a lot of Cult Blood Red Moon, smoked a lot of that, all without filters at the time. Struggled with tongue bite, I really did. And after a while, I bought a sample pack of the Frogmortons, of the 5 Frogmortons, and was absolutely disgusted by it, and tried to sell them even. And that's when I started on Instagram. My first ever post on Instagram was a stack of 5 tins and offering them up for sale or for a trade. But in the end, I ended up smoking them. And I really fell in love with Latakia, and discovered Northwoods, which I discovered through Jason Dagner, who used to rave about it. And then I just basically built up a relationship with Boswell's at that time, I was buying pipes on a regular basis, almost, I wouldn't say on a weekly basis, but really very regularly. I was one of those guys who was on the Tuesday morning in those days when they used to list the pipes at around 9 o'clock in the morning, so around 2 p.m. here in the UK, and my phone was on refresh. I was usually in the car driving back from somewhere, and I was just hitting refresh, literally watching them as they got listed, and if there was one that I liked, I snagged it. I remember one time it was actually was it the Cherry Dog? I think it was the Cherry Dog, the little bulldog that I've got. I thought it was a custom, but it wasn't. I think I bought it that way. They had it on Instagram. They do a preview, and they do a preview of the pipes that they're going to put up the next day. And I saw that little bulldog, and I fell in love with it. And I called Julie up before they went live, and I asked her if I could buy that, and she said yes. Bought that, and then the next day it wasn't up for sale, and people were calling them up and saying, "Where is that pipe? You showed it in your preview." And she said, "Well, sorry, it's been sold already." And really enjoyed that pipe, and I'm still thinking about converting it at one stage, but he was not happy doing it. He thought it might crack, because even though it's got enough girth, but diamond shanks tend to crack more easily, more readily than round ones. Hey Chad, how you doing? We've been having a very nice chat this evening. So there, in those days, when I was buying regularly from Boswell's, I was able to get all of the unicorn blends. So when they got a drop from Esoterica, they would always hold back some stuff for me if I wanted it. But nowadays they won't do it, because I don't buy pipes from them anymore. I don't buy anything from them. Tobacco every so often. I do need to do. I do want to do a reorder of Northwoods at some point. Yeah, I was thinking about opening this one, but not sure. It's a little bit late in the day. It's 2:30 in the morning, so maybe another time, I think. Any of you guys smoked this yet? Or this one? The Carolina Red. The Sansa Pulcro I found a little bit too strong. Jeff, I thought you had half the stock of this stuff. You haven't opened a single tin yet? Oh yeah, Daniel, have you smoked it? The Carolina Red? Curmudgeon, how you doing? Alright, somebody said that earlier on. Was that you, Jeff? Somebody said that somebody did a side-by-side of the Carolina Red with 40th, and this came up on top. Who's the video by, Jeff? Can anybody read that comment in, I don't know what language that is, Chinese, Japanese? Fresh babies. Alright, I'll do that, Jeff. I always find it interesting when I get comments on my videos with hieroglyphics or those kind of languages, and I don't know who that comment's for. I wonder if you could do translate on that. I've never even tried. Maybe I don't want to know what it says. Let's give that a try. Well, it says Li Ji, thank you. Well, thank you, sir or madam. I guess I sleep on Sundays. That's the general idea. It doesn't always work out. I've usually got a kid jumping on top of me by 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock. That keyboard is a bit knackered, I must agree. It does rattle a lot. Chad, did you watch my Faith Chat Friday video? Did any of it resonate with you at all, or totally alien? Indie Piper, okay. Cheers, curmudgeon. What's the latest on the health reports? Oh yeah, definitely be differences in belief, no question. But it's I actually, as I said in the video, I really wasn't sure if I was going to upload it for two reasons. Number one was it was a bit hypocritical because I said to Mike that perhaps it shouldn't be a regular thing, and there's me posting again. But the other reason why is, and I actually did a video about it, and I didn't upload it because it just got a little bit too involved and it would be too boring. But in my faith, and I suppose in any faith, in any kind of orthodoxy, any kind of people who are faithful, who are observant, you know, you're taught from a young age not to question, not to think too much. And the video that I made on Friday is not actually based, and I feel afterwards when I listen back to the videos that I go on too much about how it's not based in scripture, or it's not based on what I've read in a book. It's just my feelings and things that I suppose are the result of things that I've been exposed to, but not something that I'm quoting. And I kind of, in the first video as well, I went on about that too much. I realised that afterwards. But the reason why I do that is because it's like a reflex, it's like a guilty complex about talking about things which we've been taught from a young age not to question and not to go into too deeply, not to delve too deeply into these things, because it may have you end up questioning your own faith. And that's kind of why I was in two minds about putting that video up, because those comments that I made, the suggestions, if you like, that I made in terms of what heaven and hell might be, were not based on scripture or based on anything that I'd read. It was just a personal feeling. And some people might say that's heretical and that's blasphemy because you're just making up your own stuff. But I mean, some of the things I've definitely heard, like for instance the severing of that relationship with God and that kind of thing, is certainly stuff which I have heard before. But it was one of the reasons why I wasn't sure if I was going to upload that. But I don't think, because the truth of the matter is, because we just don't know, so you could say anything you like and you wouldn't necessarily be off the mark or on the mark, you just don't know. That's good news, Curmudgeon. That's good news. The pipes on the round pipe stand are as follows. This one is one of my own. This is the one that I did the stain on. I tried to do a contrast stain, and it kind of worked of sorts. Probably not the right grain patterns to do it with. And this one smokes great. So that's an LCS pipe, to answer your question. This is a Tom Phillips Bulldog. Which was a custom order. The guy doesn't make pipes anymore. I mean, he was doing it part-time. Then we have the Ascorti panel. Thank you, Mike. I do like that, and I often set out to start to make another one. It just ends up being a different pipe depending on the quality of the briar. This is a Parker Billiard with a beautiful grain, ring grain on this one. Very nice ring grain pattern on that. And this is another LCS pipe that I made. Hasn't been smoked as yet. This is the one which I try to make use to salvage the stem that I direct, and it's not really ideal. Didn't work out too great. It went too thin over there, so you can see a bit of a issue there. So I may well trim this back and take it down a little bit further so it's a bit thicker. No, you wouldn't call this the Church Warden. The Church Warden is when the stem is really long. This one you would just call a long shanked something or other. Billiard, maybe. This is the Guardhill, this is the Guardhill French St. Claude. Lovely pipe, which I converted recently to 9mm. Yeah, Lumberman, Liverpool. It's kind of a hybrid. It's all over the place, that pipe. Yeah, so that's that. It's really just a freehand kind of. Not freehand. Yeah. It's about all the different types of long shanked pipes. It's a hybrid. It's kind of a Liverpool / Canadian / Lumberman, because it's got the flat stem, but it's rounded underneath. It's an interesting shape. Cheers, OCD. Thanks for joining, and thanks again for the awesome package. Very much appreciated. Definitely will need to do a video on those 3 blends at some point. But this one, I guess, will be first, seeing as it's open. It's a bag. Father Dempsey. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's 2:45 in the morning, and I want to have my eyes open tomorrow because I want to be able to finish off that pipe that I started. I wouldn't say I'm into like really bigger pipes, but certainly been appreciating slightly bigger pipes. Would I buy any? I don't know. Buying pipes now is a much bigger question for me, because obviously I'm making pipes myself. But I think I'll probably always be interested in buying Northern Briar's pipes. I really just love his pipes. They smoke so well, and I wouldn't call it necessarily high end. Like some of the £500 or £1,000 pipes, but they're always very, very well made. Usually very good briar, and nicely cut stems, and they just smoke well from the off. You're always eyeing that blondes, aren't you, Josh? Here, I'll just send you off with a little nightcap here. Just look at that grain. That's a pleasure, Daniel. Thank you for joining and making it so. Just to give you an idea of the size of the bowl, it's kind of a poker, yeah. And this is already a bigger pipe than I would usually get, but it's a pretty old big bowl. It's drilled very well as well, spot on. It's a good one. I'm sure it will smoke well to whoever gets it. Josh. But I sadly can't give this one away. It's 9mm, yeah. I just have to sell some of the pipes. I've got to be able to replenish my stocks of materials. And the new pipe that I'm making, that I'm in the middle of at the moment, is also a volcano style pipe, but it won't be a poker style like this. If you didn't see the pictures I did before, I'll show you again for those who haven't seen it. This is how it started off. Like I said earlier on, I was not sure whether to take the burl off or not, leave it as plateau, but I took the risk in the hope that I'd get some nice grain, and it really does have some lovely grain on the stumble of this pipe. I turned it over, so this is at the bottom of the pipe. This was the first sort of stage. And this was what it was looking like. I just wet it to get an idea of the grain. And that's one of the sides. Oops. And that's the other side. Some nice grain on that. But still a fair bit of work to go into that pipe. So that's about it, people. There's a bowl of Chinese chicken soup waiting for me. It's a little bit late in the day to start having soup, but what is it, 10 to 3 in the morning? It's calling to me. So I'm going to wish you all a wonderful weekend, what's left of it. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Pipe Tree. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Monclaude. Thank you, North Country Fisher. Chad. Richard. Hi, Richard. I didn't see you there. How are you? Richard Rule. Thanks for joining. John Walker. Jeff, of course, the OCD Piper, the source of my yabbo tonight. Curmudgeon Piper. And everybody else. Valley Boy Bushcraft. Thanks everybody for joining. Much appreciated. Joe, thank you. And I will catch you on the next one.